In this video, we're looking at 1.1.2 example B, 1.2.1 example B about translating a function. So graph the function f of x equals x squared, which I've written here and filled out my chart, for the domain -2, 2. And the graph of the function g is the graph of f after its translation 3 units to the right. So I want to keep that in mind. We're going to the right here. How are the equations, domains, and ranges of f and g related? So I'm going to start with this equation over here, f of x equals x squared. All I did was I took my x values, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, because those were the integers from my domain, plugged them in, and then I got my y values. So I'm going to graph these 5 coordinate points, -2, 4, -1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, and 2, 4. Then I'm going to connect these dots and create kind of a sketch of a problem. It's not going to be perfect. And my domain is limited to -2, 2. So these graphs are not going to continue. There's no arrows telling me that this parabola is going to keep continuing up and left and right. So it's just going to stop. It's going to terminate here. So I've got my graph here representing x squared. And we're being told that each of these, this function, is being translated 3 units to the right. So I'm going to take each one of my points and I'm going to shift them to the right 3 places. So this point's going to move over 1, 2, 3 here. This is going to be 1, 2, 3. And then finally 1, 2, 3. Always be careful with your graphs. Each one of these little check marks represents half a unit, so be careful when you're graphing. So we've got our new graph here, and this is our g of x. That red one was f of x. So what we're trying to figure out is what's happening. What's happening to our equation, what's happening to our domain, what's happening to my ranges. So in g of x, I'm going to rewrite my x and y values. I'm going to rewrite those 5 coordinate points. So the first point on the left here looks like this one is 1, 4. So I'm going to start with 1, 4, and then just go from there. So then I have 2, 1, 3, 0. Again, that's 3, 0 there. That one was 2, 1. We have 4, 1. And then we have, it looks like 5, 4. Okay. So I have my x values, I have my y values, and we're comparing f of x to g of x. We're trying to figure out what happened. All right. In the last problem, we were looking at the x's and the y's and what changed. Well, in the last problem, we shifted up or down. In this case, we went down. So my x values stayed the same. This time I'm shifting to the right. So all of my points, my x values are being shifted off to the right. So -2, -1, 0, 1, 2 became 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right. These here have been changed, and that was caused by that shift to the right. My y values are the same. They haven't changed at all. So what's happening is all of my x values, the numbers like 2 became 5. All right, 1 became 4, 0 became 3, and so on. So what I'm actually looking at is that they're all moving to the side. So my g of x value, and this is where this gets a little tricky, is going to be my x values. And although it's going right and the numbers are increasing, we're actually going to write in a subtraction sign in those parentheses. So we're going to subtract 3 from my x values. This is always the hardest thing about horizontal translations, is that they're the opposite of what they appear to be in the function. So if you have this example here, x minus 3, that minus 3 actually tells me that my graph is going right. Where if I went back here, my vertical changes are very straightforward. -3 means down. +3 would have meant up. However, my horizontal translations, they're backwards. All right, if it says -3, that actually tells me that my graph is moving to the right. So let's fill out the rest of this, answer their questions. They're talking about the domain. They want to know what the differences in the domain and range are. So the domain for my f of x, we were given that was -2, 2. Now for g of x, I want to figure out what my domains are. Those are my x values. So my minimum and maximum x values. In this case, they are going to be, the minimum would be 1, and the maximum is going to be 5. All right, which makes sense. Our x values change, so that means our domain should change. All right, if our x values had stayed the same, our domain would have stayed the same. Next, I want to look at my range. So my range for f of x, well, what were my values? So be careful, you're not just going to pick the first one, the last one. We want to look at the minimum and the max. The smallest number was 0, and the largest number was 4. So my range was 0, 4, which is similar to what we had to start before. And then for g of x, same thing. I want to look at my minimum and maximum. Well, we didn't do a shift up and down. My y values did not change, so my range should remain the same. So what we're looking at is, if we go back to here, we were talking about translations in this part. All right, that plus k meant up or down. For translations left and right, horizontal translations, if you have a number inside, so plus or minus an h value, that is going to tell you it shifts left or right. Now, unfortunately, it is backwards, so plus h. So if it's plus h, that's actually a shift left. And if it's minus h, that is a shift right. So this is key here. Again, it's kind of frustrates a lot of people. It is going to be backwards. The shifts, the horizontal shifts left and right are backwards from what they appear to be. I can't say it enough. If it's plus, it's actually going to go left. If it's minus, it's actually going to go right. And that's it for vertical and horizontal shifts. So just kind of reinforce, which one goes up and down. Your K values cause up and down. They're very straightforward. They're very direct. Your H values, the inside number, tells you left or right, and those ones are going to be backwards.